Hey everyone, it's Friday, May 9th.
Coming up on today's show, we'll have a look at our district's superintendent, our city's new MLB-affiliated AAA baseball team,
and the cause of 1/3 of all teenage deaths. I'm Chris Hernandez.
And I'm Molly Goldman. You're watching CTV.
A teenager's first car is a rite of passage into adulthood. Unfortunately, some of those young drivers will never make it to be adult drivers. We go to CTV's Alexa Arms for a story on the leading killer of teens.
According to the National Highway and Safety Traffic Administration, about 89 people are killed on U.S. roadways every day due to unsafe and careless driving, resulting in up to 32,000 deaths per year. 10% of these deaths are teens alone.
I think distracted driving is a #1 cause of teenage crashes because a lot of teenagers are always texting behind the wheel, or they have the music turned up really loud, or they're laughing and talking with their friends. They're not really paying attention to the road or like the other cars around them.
Kids are just learning how to drive, and they go out and they're speeding. And even if they're not speeding, they're not always, they don't know, or their reactions aren't the same as somebody that's been driving a long time.
Well, I think teenagers, and I'm not talking about all teenagers in general, but many love to drive fast, and so when you're driving at a high rate of speed, you have less time to react, and so your chances of getting in an accident are increased.
On average, it takes as few as 6 months for a teen to earn a driver's license. Many argue that this short amount of time doesn't allow most young adults to really get the right tools and experience behind the wheel. Without simple driving experiences, teens are more susceptible to careless driving, like texting behind the wheel, because they are not fully aware of the consequences that could occur.
I mean, you're just learning to drive. You just get your driver's license. Those driving schools don't really teach you much. It's like, what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? You get behind the wheel like 4 times, and then you get a driver's license. You don't have the experience by the wheel, behind the wheel, so then you're texting, you're not paying attention to what you're doing, and it's just the combination of everything.
When I hit the other car, I did have friends in the car. I wasn't texting or anything, but I did have friends, and we were talking.
Lack of concentration. If you're driving fast and engaged in conversation, you're not really paying attention to what's going on. Another thing that's going on now is with cell phones, people texting and driving. And of course, teens love to text, so that's something that we don't want to see happen.
Unfortunately for some, it's hard to realize the importance of safe driving until it hits close to home.
I've had 2 actually prior students, and the story's very similar, where they actually were coming back with friends from the desert, and they actually kind of rolled the car, and the person was thrown out and lost their lives. One was a female, one was a male. I think many people think that this type of thing can't happen to them, but if they see that it's other people their age that it did happen to, then maybe they start to think a little bit.
While the driving age doesn't look to be changing anytime soon, one of the best ways to become a better driver is simply by taking a step back and listening to what advice others have to offer.
Well, if you're going to text or even take a call, it can wait. Just concentrate on what you're doing and try not to drive fast, because if you do drive fast, it's easier to lose control.
Since hitting another car, I have been more cautious driving, like pulling out of parking spots. I look around a little more, make sure that there aren't any other cars around. It's made me a lot more careful as a driver.
Really just slow down, get experience behind the wheel, take your time, learn, so that these things don't happen. Actually follow the law. Don't have 4 or 5 of your friends in the car. Learn how to be a good driver before you start doing the other stuff.
Distracted and unsafe driving are one of the leading causes in teen death. When you're on the roadways, make sure to be aware of your surroundings at all times. Being behind the wheel is a responsibility that requires your undivided attention. This has been Alexa Arms reporting for CTV. Drive safe.
As he completes his first school year, our superintendent, Juan Cabrera, reflects on what brought him to his new position and what goals he plans to accomplish in the future. CTV's Gabby Lanza is here with the full report.
In 2010, the El Paso Independent School District faced a scandal involving falsified test scores under the administration of Dr. Lorenzo Garcia. Since then, EPISD has replaced Garcia with a fresh face, Juan Cabrera.
I've had very positive. I mean, everywhere I go, it's been very, very positive, and that's been nice. It's encouraging because there's a lot of long hours and tough decisions we're making, but thankfully everyone in the city's just welcomed us, with open arms.
Mr. Cabrera is looking to put the district back on the right track. However, his goals will not be easily obtained.
We had about 7 or 8 positions at the central office from a leadership standpoint that weren't there. So we needed very quickly to find replacements for those people, and that took up a lot of time in the beginning.
Most kids don't really know what's going on. I don't even know the full circle of what's going on. Not necessarily the lack of participation or transparency by the board. It's more the lack of participation by the actual students and the people who are actually affected by this as taxpayer.
Many administrators have voiced their opinions on the changes they'd like to see fulfilled.
The concern has been perhaps the effectiveness of the communication with communities. There's been feedback from those communities. You have to really step real gingerly through some of these issues.
This has been Gabby Lanza reporting for CTV.
Spring break is normally considered a time for students to spend in the sun and take part in their favorite activities. Instead, a group from the Coronado Baptist Church traveled to Panama to be of service to those in need. CTV's Alan Castro has the full story.
Coronado Baptist Church youth pastor Murray Van Gundy led a group of 50 people to Panama. The group is made up of leaders and 43 students from Coronado, Franklin, Santa Teresa, and homeschooled.
Well, Panama is a third world country, and there's good ministry there. And it's a place that I've already been, so I've already scouted out trips there, already been on trips there, so I knew it would be a good place that we could do ministry.
While there, in collaboration with Youth with a Mission Panama, the group did activities from community service in indigenous villages to dramas and presentations at several schools. To break the language barrier from English to Spanish, the youth group played games and performed dramas for the faculty and student body.
I think music is kind of a universal language in and of itself. Some of our songs are actually in Spanish, even though they were originally done in English, and they really help us communicate messages of why we came. We came to talk about Jesus.
The reason we do dramas and skits is it's kind of a universal language. It's good to do skits because it leads into us being able to share the gospel.
Panama, which is generally considered a third world country, has its own unique culture that the group was able to experience.
When they go and they see that people live in homes made of just pallets and tin roofs, dirt floors, 10 people living in a small room coming from America, it kind of changes their viewpoint on the world.
You know, we took these canoe boats, hollowed out like tree logs, and with motors attached to the end, and we took it, and as you turned around this river bend, you saw kind of peering through the trees, these huts, but these huts are just on stilts, and you have to pinch yourself, like, am I really here, am I really experiencing this culture?
After coming back, the team felt as if their experiences in Panama would help shape their future here in the States.
One of the things that was definitely easier to carry out after the trip was being more sensitive towards the needs of others, especially those that aren't first leaders. Just live life differently than we do. We learn how to interact with them differently in a way that doesn't make them feel awkward or inferior to you.
I don't know, it was an amazing experience because I think we try to Americanize everything, and sometimes for the first time in your life you don't have to Americanize, you can just experience the other culture for the beauty that it is.
Most of the students consider this a life-changing experience. The Coronado Baptist Church Youth Group is expecting to go to Israel next spring break. For now, this is Alan Castro reporting for CTV.
After this commercial break, we'll have Molly and Omar with sports.
Coming up later in the show, CTV's Quinn Gutierrez will give us some perspective on a student population that widely goes unnoticed.
I look within my soul, and all I see is what I am. Among the sea of grease buckets and Stop and Shops, I am left unable to be whole again. I don't buy any products at department stores. I don't want to feel a corporate machine like you sheeple. I found my calling. I found where I belong. International Bakery, sandwich art for the sandwich soul.
(2013-2014) has been a big school year for Coronado athletes, and after a big game, they love to celebrate at Menchie's.
I run for Menchie's.
I'm signing for my Menchie's mileage card. I dunked for Menchie's.
To improve my golf swing, I get the cookies and cream at Menchie's.
So run as fast as you can to Menchie's.
Hey guys, I'm Molly.
And I'm Omar, and we've got this week's sports for you.
This past year, local construction workers have been racing against time in order to have our AAA baseball stadium ready for opening day.
Their efforts were successful, and the El Paso Chihuahuas have made their share of headlines. We go to Daniel with more.
El Paso worked very hard to bring in its very own AAA baseball team. The city council went as far as demolishing the city hall, as well as increasing the hot tax in El Paso. The baseball stadium is one of the few things that's being used to revitalize the old historic El Paso downtown.
At this point, we got to go with it. And I think it'll also serve as a rallying point for the community. Even folks like me that were opposed vehemently against it, that we're going to be able to support it, because that's our community. If anything brings our people together, why not? And besides, we're paying for it. So if we don't support it, we're only shooting ourselves in the foot.
I really applaud the city leaders for making a strong, courageous decision to spend money to do that.
The Chihuahuas baseball team brings a lot to the city. It's a great opportunity for us, and I'm glad we decided to get the stadium and the team.
The construction of the Southwest University Park took around a full year to complete. The construction of the park was controversial, as City Council made the decision to spend $61 million to build the park without a vote from city residents. The other $11 million came from the team's private owners. The project required 1,400 construction workers who worked 7 days a week for a full year. With any city project, especially one of such large proportions, there will be opposition to counter the support.
No votes was ever put out before the folks, and there was obviously a lot of reservations with this, but now that it's built, it's a done deal.
A lot of people were opposed to the stadium and the team early on because of tax purposes, because they were raised a little bit. But I think that this team will bring so much to El Paso that in the long run, the economic benefit will outweigh the taxes greatly.
I definitely think it's going to help get people downtown, people who never come downtown, haven't seen what's going on. I think there's a lot more to do downtown, a lot more people going downtown, a lot more businesses that I like to patronize anyway. I like to go and spend my money at these businesses, so yeah, I think it's definitely going to help.
All opinions aside, the Chihuahuas have kicked off their inaugural season and are set to play baseball in El Paso. The games are sure to be an attraction for El Paso residents and citizens of the area. With sellout crowds of up to 10,000 to begin the season, El Paso is already beginning to embrace the feisty little pooch that is their baseball team.
It has been a great year for Coronado Athletics, bringing home district championships in football, tennis, golf, and basketball, as well as state championships in wrestling and hockey.
That's all we've got for you this week. See you next week.
Many students fail to realize that some of their fellow classmates don't have a place to call home. Quinn Gutierrez is giving us a closer look at these students and opening our eyes to their daily struggles.
Everyone deals with stress and hardships, but imagine not having a home to go to. A place to sleep, of warmth, comfort, security. Walking through the hallways here, the eyes that return an indifferent glance may belong to more than just another empty face. Our high school has a handful of students that live as few could imagine, without a home.
I needed to do everything by myself. If I needed to go to a place, I'll walk to it or take the bus. And yeah, if I need information, I need to get it.
This student, who wished not to be named, has lived on her own for nearly a year, spending the nights in a homeless shelter.
Sometimes I can't do the same things as them, because I can't. Yeah.
The at-risk coordinator here, Mrs. Soria, helps these students find places to live, even going as far as finding simple food and clothes.
You have a parent come in here, I don't have a place, I don't have any money. And that's actually the challenge toward finding them somewhere right there and then, not turning them away, say, oh, come back 2 or 3 days.
Well, she has helped me in a lot of stuff with, like, I can go talk with her and she would understand me fine and things like that. She has been good help for me.
These students come from all walks of life and are often just victims of unfortunate circumstances.
When they come in and they tell you, Miss, my 2 parents were picked up and taken to jail yesterday. I mean, situations like that, like, wow, sometimes you think one, but when two of them at the same time, I don't have nowhere to go, I don't know where to go, you know, and it's like, those stories are just very touching, and it's like, but I make sure that by the time they leave my office, you know, whether it's counseling, whether it's getting help from outside agencies, by the time the student leaves my office, you can tell that they leave in better spirits because they know that they're going to have somewhere to be that night.
Actually, I had to learn to speak English, so it was more difficult for me. I think moving is the hardest thing in this process. But opportunities, I think that I can do exactly the same that other people.
Despite their past, all of them look forward to a future free from the grips of poverty.
I want a career in petroleum engineering. I want to be a judge and study laws.
From their experiences,
no matter what obstacle comes in life, that's your past. Let's look at the future, and you can overcome it.
You don't need the money and stuff like that to go for your goals. You just need yourself and to push yourself and get it far. When you know that you don't have something, you want to fight for it and do whatever you can to have it.
May not have a big home, but hey, I say I have a home.
This has been Quinn Gutierrez reporting.
That's all for our show this week. Be sure to check out our website below for more. You can also like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter for more daily updates. Once again, I'm Chris.
And I'm Molly. Have a happy Mother's Day weekend.